Good morning, Royal We Fellowship. I'm happy that you are here with me this morning. It is a little bit rainy outside, and so we're starting a few minutes late, just trying to get everything together. But I'm going to go ahead and open up in prayer. I'm so happy that you're here with me this morning. Our Father who art in heaven, how holy is your name? And your kingdom will come, and your will shall be done, here on this earth as it is in heaven. And give us this day and each day our daily bread, and forgive us of our sins as we forgive others who have sinned against us. And lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from the evil that's in this world. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. And everybody said, Amen. And when we talk about there being evil in the world and we need protection from the evil in the world, I am 100% certain that as we're on this journey with Abraham, we are starting to awaken and open our eyes and understand just how the outside world, how cautious we need to be in our daily dealings and in everything that we do. And this is a lot of the things that modern Christianity kind of steers away from talking about. It's more of a invite everybody in. And we've lost the control of boundaries in our own life. We have lost the sense of who we are. We have lost the sense of protecting our core values. We've lost all of that stuff and have exchanged it up for a very non-judgmental, non-boundary holding place in life because that's where we feel we have to be, which has landed us in a lot of very difficult and dangerous situations, especially from toxic narcissistic abuse. Today, we're going to be jumping in, as we're continuing on with Abraham, we're going to be jumping into Genesis chapter 24. And this is a longer chapter, so we're not going to be going verse by verse because we'll be here for the entire day. But I do want to start off by saying where we are up to this point. We have learned that Abraham has really shown us in his life that because of his connection with God, he has rejected gifts and offerings from outside people. No matter where he goes, he turns down people trying to give him something if he can, in fact, be okay with that. So, for example, we saw when the king of Sodom offered him treasures and things of that because he helped battle the other kings. Abraham said, "No, I told God I would not take anything, not even a lace from a shoe from you. Otherwise, you might be able to say that you made Abraham rich." And so we see that Abraham is the understanding for us is that we need to be careful when we allow other people to give us things. We need to understand that the intentions might not be good, especially in a narcissistic, toxic culture where everybody wants to look like they're amazing. That's what narcissism is. They're grandiose. And so, yes, even in their gift giving, even in what they're trying to give out, they can have hidden intentions of, wow, I hope I look good and I want to be known as the one who does this, right? So we have to be cautious of that. We see this again when Abraham, it came time in the last verse that we read, Abraham was burying his wife. Now, Abraham needed land to bury his wife, but because of his popularity, because of his growth, the people of that land said, let us just give it to you. One person in particular was just very outgoing and very vocal about it. Let me give it to you here in front of everybody. And you can almost get the sense that he was saying exactly that. Here in front of everybody, I want to give you this, Abraham. And Abraham denied it once again. And he said, if you really want to give it to me, sell it to me. I'll give you the fair price. And this is how you and I need to be in our dealings with the outside world. And because of the toxicity, if we're too quick to just say, wow, that's amazing of you, I'll take what you give me, we instantly give power to them over us. And we need to keep this in mind. Abraham understood this. This apparently has been a principle since the beginning of time. If somebody's giving you something, there is a power shift. Do you follow that? Now, this doesn't mean, as I said before, this doesn't mean that you can't be blessed when you genuinely need to be blessed. I have. When there's times where we're really down and out and have absolutely nothing, I believe people can come in and can help you out. That's different. That is different. I'm talking about when you are able to help yourself, yet people still want to do things for you. Now we're getting into the realm of possible toxicity. Now we're getting into the realm of possibly I'm going to do this so that I am the one that's noticed. Okay. This is important, especially for the holidays. I'm not going to get too far into it, but how many of you deal with toxic family members, in-laws who like to have celebrations and parties, not because they really want you there, but because your presence and everybody's presence reflects on them. It makes them look good, right? They feel like they're the superior ones simply by having people there, which is why if you reject their offer, typically they get very upset. How dare you? Because you're rejecting their pride, their ego, in a sense. Now then, I think we've talked enough about that. Let's go ahead and move right along. Now, we're in Genesis 24, which is very long. Now, in Genesis 24, we see that this is after Abraham's wife had passed away. And they're going on, they've grown, and also Abraham has grown old, and it came time for Abraham to find a wife. And this is important as well. Find a wife for his son Isaac. Now, I would be under the impression that Isaac was still, well, I'm not sure how old he was, but I oftentimes question why, especially when reading this, because it's not clear as to why Isaac was not able to find his own wife, except for when I looked into it, I did come across this idea that where they were amongst the Canaanite people at the time, Abraham did not want to have Isaac marry somebody from the Canaanite people. He was very, very much against that. And this is also important. This is going to be the first point for you and I to understand that you can live amongst a toxic people, and you can live amongst people who are different values, and we do every day. We are out every single day working amongst people, and when a lot of you and myself included, oftentimes we come across people and we're like, wow, it feels like every time I go out, I'm running into someone that's toxic. There's rudeness everywhere, and there is. So this has become a fact of life. And so what Abraham is doing for his son is it's as if he's conditioned him to understand that when you look for a partner, don't look outside of what you know. This is what we are doing. This is our family. We're following God. The Canaanite people, yes, there's beautiful women. Yes, don't get involved. It's a different value set. Abraham understood that when you get mingled up in these different values, different belief systems, you run the risk of losing every promise that you may have had. And this is important for you and I as we go on and we try to find partnerships in this life. We try to find a spouse or maybe someone to date or even just close friends. We need to understand that even though we live amongst a society that can be very toxic and narcissistic, that does not mean we need to intimately get involved. I think Abraham has taught us how to live amongst these toxic atmospheres, and that is simply to do the best that you can, be fair, don't take anything, don't give them power over you in any way. And I believe that in time, as you do this and we build this as habits, we won't even see narcissistic abuse anymore. I've already noticed that I don't see narcissistic abuse. And the reason is because I'm focused on living my life, being fair, being nice, and I stay away from drama. I stay away from the people I shouldn't be involved with. And as a matter of fact, I spend time, especially when I'm working, I do the best I can for people, even when I know that they are toxic, if this makes sense. But there's no intimate connection whatsoever. It has taken a while to get to this point, but this is where you can get. And Abraham was in this place too. And so I believe he instructed his son Isaac this entire time, do not get intimately involved outside of what you know, outside of what your values are. How many of us need to be reminded of that? Do not get intimately involved outside of your values. Now then, so Abraham called a servant, had a servant to go with some people to go back to his hometown. Now, this is an interesting concept because Abraham left everything of his hometown, of Haran. He left everything to go on this journey. He left everything behind, breaking generational curses. Now, when we talked earlier about generational curses, I believe a generational curse is the refusal to let go of what you're tied to in your lineage, your moms, your dads, your brothers and sisters. So a lot of times we wonder, how do we break generational curses? First way is to break free and to leave. Turn your back on that, walk away, go a completely different way, leave it all behind. Abraham did just that. He left everything behind. And Now we're at this place where his son needs a wife. So he's ready to go back, but not for himself. He wants to send people back to find a wife for his son, Isaac. So this is in line with, in some things, it's okay to go back to your core values, your core beliefs. He wasn't going back. Abraham himself did not go back, if you notice that. Abraham did not go back to Haran. He did not go back to his family. He did not go back to his dad and his mom. He sent servants. So the reason he needed something from Haran is because at least he knew the core beliefs, the values of that town, of that area. And he wanted that for his son over the Canaanite people. Okay? But still, Abraham would not go himself to find his son a wife. Abraham still held true to the reality that he walked away from those generational curses. He walked away from where he was born and raised and the celebrations and all that. He left that behind and he was not going back. This would have been a good opportunity for Abraham to go back and revisit his mom and dad, to go back and revisit his old friends, his old pals. This would have been an opportunity to go back and say, my son Isaac, I'm so proud of him. He is old enough to get married now. I am here in my hometown to find a wife for him. He didn't do that. He stayed away. I think there's something in this as well, as Abraham understands the power of generational curses, the power of how if you go back to a place where you left, then it possibly means you never even left to begin with. Okay? So Abraham did not go. He sent a servant. He sent a servant and some men to go, and it was almost done very stealth-like. It's almost as if when he went back to his hometown of Haran, they did it sneakily. He didn't go announcing, I'm with Abraham. The servant didn't go and say, I'm with Abraham. We're here to find his son Isaac. He didn't announce it at all. He went and he made a plan. And this is where we're going to get into the next thing that I feel is very important for us in our lives as we navigate a toxic world with narcissism, is we make a plan of how we can strategically even find people that resonate with us. Okay? In verse 10 through 12, we see that the servants of Abraham, and this is Genesis chapter 24, verse 10 and verse 12. The servant left, took the master's camels, loaded it with all kinds of goods. They headed down towards the town. Now, in verse 12, they prayed, Lord God of my master Abraham, make me successful today and show kindness to my master Abraham. See, I am standing beside the spring, and the daughters of the townspeople are coming out to draw their water. May it be that when I say to a young woman, please let down your jar, that I may have a drink, and she says, drink, and I will water your camels too. Let it be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. So he already was praying, and it was spiritually led and guided to ask the Lord, listen, I'm going to this town. I have no idea who I should pick for a partner for Isaac. This is what makes sense. Let it be the one that shows the grace and the kindness without knowing who I am. Again, this is that stealth. This is that going into it, that situation where he's not announcing, hey, I'm with Abraham, I'm a servant, and because Abraham was well known, and I'm here to find a wife for his son Isaac. You know, it would kind of be, I guess, the equivalent of if servants of Justin Bieber or whatever were running over to meet a bunch of girls saying, hey, I'm here with Justin Bieber, he's looking for a wife. Right? Can you imagine all the girls would be running, falling over themselves, pushing everybody out of the way, whatever. So he did it very stealth, and what he did was create this plan in his heart, saying, the one that shows me this type of kindness, then she is natural, she is authentic, she is genuine in her giving and in her nature. And this is what we want in our life and in our relationships. We want to be able to develop tests to be able to find out if people are genuine in their nature without knowing what they could possibly get. Do you follow me on that? A lot of people, especially who come out of toxic relationships, are too quick to jump in and give that person everything. You jump in and give them sex, give them love, give them these things. So there's nothing withheld. And when you give this, you're giving away who you are in every aspect. So as opposed to just giving away who you are, it's best to go in stealth and find out the type of person that would be worthy, the type of person that would deserve you. And you do that by being stealth. You do that by offering you do that by not offering the best parts of you. You do that by first finding out what's the true nature and character of this person. We need to have a plan to find the true nature and character of an individual before we invite them any further in our life. This is the only way to avoid toxicity in our lives. And so, as we see in verse 15, before he finished praying, Rebecca came out, one of the gals from Haran there, with some of the other girls, no doubt. And she was the daughter of Bethuel, it says, who is the wife of Abraham's brother. So they're all kind of related. That's just how they worked back then. That's how it was. The woman was very beautiful, a virgin. No man had ever slept with her. She went down to the spring to fill her jar, came up again. Now the servant hurried to meet her because she was beautiful. But again, the servant had this plan already. It has to work like this. She has to be authentic and giving, because if not, then it's not going to be the right fit. And so the servant hurried to meet her and said, please give me a little water from your jar. And she instantly said in verse 18, drink, my Lord. And by the way, when they said my Lord back then, or my master back then, I believe it was the same, or it was the equivalent of saying, yes, sir. It wasn't like, oh, you're a god or this or that. It was, yes, sir, kind of a thing. Yes, sir, absolutely. The same type of I guess when I hear, if I go and get a coffee somewhere, would you like some cream, sir? Sometimes I don't like it, to be honest with you. I feel kind of aged when I hear sir, but I guess it's better than being called Lord. Could you imagine going somewhere and to a Chick-fil-A to get your chicken, and they're like, what else can I get you, my Lord? What else can I get you, my master? So we've done away with a lot of these words, but when we see words like this, it's not the same Lord as what we refer to, obviously. It's just a term of endearment, a yes, sir. So she quickly lowered the jar to her hands and gave him a drink. And then, after she'd given him a drink, she said, I'll draw water for your camels too, until they've had enough to drink. And the plan was fulfilled. Right there in Rebecca, right after the servants prayed, he witnessed exactly what he was hoping for, which was that he found a woman who was not only beautiful, but she also served him. And then she also, out of the natural compassion of her heart and her being quick to assess the needs of the entire community there, she said, let me also water your camels, sir. Let me water your camels too. They look thirsty, like you've come on a good journey. So this guy is just beside himself with excitement, going, oh my goodness, here is the woman. My prayers have been answered. And there is reason to be excited when you come across people who the Lord has answered your prayers. If they pass these tests of character where you can identify their true nature, there's reason to celebrate. There's reason to share with them. Oh my gosh. And listen, we're not talking about mirroring here. We're not talking about you telling somebody what you like and they doing it. This is not what happened here. This servant secretly and privately, stealthily prayed. Rebecca didn't hear it. And in his prayer, he was very specific, saying, let the one who feeds, who gives water to not only me, but the camels, let her be the one. And when he saw this take place without him even talking to her, he celebrated. And so you and I, in our relationships, it's okay to celebrate when we in our personal lives are praying for something and we see exactly that. It's okay to celebrate that. It's okay and say, wow, I just prayed that this would happen and you did that. That is amazing. And I believe that God can bring us encounters in life, special encounters, when we are sensitive to this. So from verse 24 on, she explains who she is, and then they go to her house together. When the servant gets to her house, and this is important again, he's not announcing to everybody, he's not looking for Abraham's family, none of that stuff. But he does get to Rebecca's house, follows her back into her home, and he says, verse 34, I am Abraham's servant. And he then explains why he's there, what took place. Verse 35, The Lord has blessed my master abundantly. He's telling them Abraham is very wealthy. He is very rich, very wealthy, and he has become wealthy. He has given him sheep and cattle and silver and gold, and he's also making it important to understand that the Lord God has made Abraham wealthy. Okay, so if you see verse 35, the Lord has blessed my master abundantly, so that they know that Abraham has not become crooked and some kind of a whatever, like most kings out there. Most kings in the areas would become wealthy and amass riches because of the way they would tax people and enslave people. So what this person is saying, what the servant is saying, is that the Lord has blessed my master abundantly. And if you remember, Abraham doesn't have a kingdom. He doesn't even own land yet at this point. He doesn't own a castle. He doesn't have a house. He is living amongst the Canaanite people currently, yet he is the wealthiest one among them. As he continues to sojourn, if you will, he's wealthy, but has not yet built a kingdom. And this is a part of, I believe, the whole plan, but because he doesn't look wealthy, but yet he is, and he's gaining in being known. And so the servants tell Rebekah's family that he's wealthy. The Lord has made him wealthy. My master's wife, Sarah, has borne him a son in old age, and he has given him everything he owns. So he's saying that his son also has everything he owns. Verse 37, now my master made me swear an oath and said, you must get a wife for my son out of the daughter, from the daughters. No, you must not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites. Okay. So again, there's heavy boundaries against toxicity. There's heavy boundaries against different value systems. This is important. In whose land we lived. So they lived amongst the Canaanites. In verse 38, but go to my father's family and to my own clan and get a wife for my son. Then I asked my master, what if the woman will not come back with me? And he replied, the Lord before you, who walked faithfully, will send the angel and make your journey a success. So he's being honest and explaining everything that took place. And when he came to the spring, he continues, he told them the entire story of how Rebekah went out and gave him water and also the camels water. And then before he finished by saying, before he was even done praying in his heart, Rebekah came out and did just that. She quickly lowered the jar. And basically he said, listen, she is the one. And I want to take her back with me if she will go. And we can have your blessing. And he did the right way. Notice he didn't just take her and throw her over the back of the donkey and say, we're out of here. He did the right way. He told the family the entire story. And at this time, the family, they replied, and they said, that's fantastic. That's great news. They loved the story. They bought it. And here's in verse 52, when Abraham's servant heard what they had to say, he bowed to the ground before the Lord, because they answered and they said, this sounds like it's from the Lord. This is amazing. So yes, let Rebekah become your servant, Isaac's wife. And so when the servant heard this, he felt blessed. He was, this is great. Everything's working perfectly. However, the next morning they got up, they changed their mind all of a sudden. And I believe that this is probably normal and healthy. Anybody who gets married, the family changed their mind and said, wait a minute, before you take our daughter and we possibly never see her again, how about you let her stay for a few days. Let her think about this. This is kind of quick. This is all at once. And it does seem like it's all at once. It does seem very fast. But he said to them, listen, do not detain me. Don't make me stay. Now that the Lord has granted success to my journey, send me on my way so I may go to my master. Then they said, let's call the young woman and ask her about it. Okay. So they called Rebekah and asked her, will you go with this man? So you see that the story was good. Abraham's servants did a good job, did everything that they were supposed to do. Now it comes to the faith in the person, the faith in the other family. Oftentimes when you are going and you're doing things in good faith, and even if you're excited and you're celebrating, you're like, wow, this is amazing. It's often good to allow caution in others as well, to not be as excited as you. Again, they're getting ready to lose their daughter, Rebekah. And so they said, wait a minute, let's really just ask her opinion. We heard your story. Yes, we get it. Abraham's rich. Isaac's rich. Okay, fantastic. It was a sign from God. Everything's great. But you know what? You want to split. Just like that with our daughter, I want to hear what she has to say. And so this came down to Rebecca. And they asked her in verse 57, Rebecca, will you go with this man? And she said, I will go. I will go. And she used her own discernment in the situation based on the whole thing being there, noticing this man's excitement as he told the story of exactly what he was praying for and what took place. So they sent Rebekah on their way, along with her nurse, Abraham's servant, and his men. They blessed Rebekah and said to her, our sister, may you increase to thousands upon thousands. May your offspring possess the cities of their enemies. This is a very interesting thing right here. Our sister, may you increase thousands upon thousands. May your offspring possess the cities of their enemies. Their family already had the discernment and the understanding to know that Rebekah was going to be a part of something that was huge and growing. They understood Abraham's blessing that he would be the father of many nations. God had already put this in people's hearts. They also understood the realm and the world of toxicity, that it needs to be there needs to be a small, valued center core that God needs to work through to grow and to spread. And this is what we see taking place. They were already on board with that. So Rebekah and her attendants got ready to go, and then went out and left. Now Isaac had come from Beer Lahai Roi. Sometimes it's hard to pronounce the names of these old towns back then. For he was living in the Negev. He went out to the field. This is verse 63. Went out to the field one evening to meditate. And as he looked up, meditation, by the way, is great. Meditation and prayer. We should be living a life in meditation and prayer. And as he looked up, he saw camels approaching. Rebekah also looked up and saw Isaac. She got down from her camel. She asked the servant, who is that man in the field coming to meet us? He is my master, the servant answered. So she took her veil and covered herself because she was not yet his gift. She covered herself. Then the servant told Isaac all he had done. Isaac brought her into the tent to his mother Sarah, and the tent of his mother Sarah. Not the tent to his mother, the tent of his mother Sarah, because Sarah was no longer alive. And he married Rebekah. So she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. The last line there, Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. One of the things that I personally like to instill, especially in women, and understanding is the importance and their value in the lives of men. Men, all of us have this natural gravitation towards women, towards that mother nurturing aspect. When we come out, when we're born, it's the first skin-to-skin contact we have. It is the, and the feeding and everything. It's something that we long for the rest of our lives. And it's important to understand this concept that without that type of nurturing, men feel lost. It's very hard to understand what it is you're even working for, what you're even doing. And I wish women had this understanding of this power that they have, because the reality is that you need to, as women, be able to be very choosy as to what men you allow in your life, knowing that they need that nurturing aspect from you that only you can give. And so this is important to understand, that even in this story, that Isaac was in a period of great drought. He was very much missing and longing that nurturing aspect of his mother. Part of the partnership and part of the unification is that nurturing. And so this is why I find it very, very important and amazing that this is spoken, that he was comforted after his mother's death. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. That wraps up this teaching. I hope that this was a great message full of some insight for you. Be sure to join me next Saturday morning for Royal We Fellowship. If you would like to support to this channel, you can do so by clicking on the link at the banner of this channel. There is a PayPal link there. It's not required that you donate, but it is inspired that you do so. With that, we'll be back next Saturday morning at 9 o'clock a.m. Also, Monday night is Royal We Live Chat, where you can bring questions. And also, stay with us throughout the week, as we are going to have videos uploaded on the Organic Royal We channel. And have a blessed weekend, everybody. And we'll be back.